Supercell have confirmed that in 2024 we will be receiving 3 new Goblin Evolutions. What if it was for one of the new Goblin cards? What if it was for all of the new Goblin cards? This video will be softly spoken, as I am under the weather right now, as some might say. Let's get started with the first one. Oh, I can burp just fine, it seems. If you are unfamiliar with this video format, I take 3 cards in Clash Royale that don't currently have an evolution, and I give them one of my own. Not only is that inclusive of designing the cards, but we also go in depth and talk about some of the ideas of what they might bring into the game. Now, this video is specifically focused on the 3 new Goblin cards, that being the Goblin Demolisher, the Goblin Curse, and also the Goblin Machine. I would show you my very convincing Goblin Machine impression, but I'm not going to do that right now. The Goblin Demolisher is the first one of the 3, and he looks pretty similar to how he usually looks, but with a lot more purple, a lot more gold, a little bit of navy too. As always, I'm gonna suggest my ideas for what the evolution could do, but if you have an idea that's different to mine, be sure to comment it down below. I would imagine that the Goblin Demolisher, once it reaches that halfway point in the bar, as it sprints forward, it would drop bombs behind it. If you could imagine for a second a similar animation to the bombs in Clash of Clans, where they sort of appear and then explode. You can clearly see he has a lot of dynamite on him, so I'm sure he could spare some for the trail behind. That would sort of give him more clearance utility rather than just the explosion at the end. That's the only idea I could really think of for him, so if you have any more, be sure to write it down below. The next one was the most difficult one, in my opinion, to come up with an idea for, and that was the Goblin Curse. Here it is. Not only was it the hardest to come up with an idea for, it was also the hardest to design. It's kind of difficult to change the bottle, but I feel like I changed it enough to where it looks a little more powerful. Goblin Curse idea. I could only think of one idea. I think in general, it's very difficult to come up with unique ideas for spells. The idea I had, I worded it in a very specific way. Let's see what I wrote. Cursed goblins. So goblins that transform into goblins from the Goblin Curse, just so we're on the same page. Cursed goblins will transform any killed troop into a goblin, even after the duration of the spell has concluded. So with the evolved Goblin Curse, I imagine perhaps the goblins that are transformed by the spell would have a little pink smoke effect or something. You can imagine something similar so that you can tell that they're cursed goblins, right? And obviously, even after the spell has finished, those goblins are still going to be on the field. And if they kill something, doesn't have to be in the spell range, it will still transform into another cursed goblin. So you can see the utility behind it. I always forget to talk about the cycles of these evolutions, and I think probably all 3 of these would be 2 cycles, but maybe the Goblin Machine, the one that's coming up next, could be 1. We'll have to see. Goblin Machine. We're seeing it right now. Here it is, with the massive, cohesive rocket. That thang be thangin'. He sorta looks like Wario. But let's move past that minor inconvenience. The Goblin Machine has a lot that you can change about it, so I came up with quite a few ideas that I thought could work for it. The first one being that the giant machine would self-destruct upon death, similar to the giant skeleton, and perhaps even on top of that, could have a goblin giant-like effect where it would spawn 1 or 2 baby goblins, the guy that pilots it, upon the death of it. Maybe that would be too strong on top of the explosion. Could be one or the other, but I feel like just having the baby goblins is very underwhelming. The second idea that I had, I literally wrote, first rocket is the big one. Now think to, in Clash of Clans, the prior Supercell game before this one, there was a section of it called the Builder Base, okay? And some troops had special effects, and I'll give you an example of that. There was a bomber, just like from Clash Royale, that its first bomb would be a huge one, and it would destroy lots of things, and then the rest of them were normal. It could be like that, because it would give you the element of power, but also have it so that it's pretty easily countered as well, you know? There's a pretty good idea, I think. And the final one that I had here was that there could be a bar in the health, just like the Goblin Demolisher, where it has that halfway bar. And when under that bar of health, the rockets that it fires could either become more regular or perhaps bigger, more damaging. They're the main 3 ideas that I had for it. I did think of some others, but they're not really refined enough for me to put it into wording, I suppose. That's going to conclude the 3 Goblin Evolutions. I'm a little congested. I hope I haven't shown up my nostrils and you can see my very swollen sinuses. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you guys comment down below any evolution ideas you have for these cards, but also evolution ideas for other cards that perhaps I can cover in the next video.